Welcome to Dubai Real Estate Unplugged, brought to you by the team here at House Real Estate. I'm Luke Remington, Managing Director for the House Group, and today we're going to be discussing the highs and lows of property management here in Dubai. If you're an existing landlord or you're thinking of leasing out your property long term, you're likely going to need the support of a property manager. So we're going to cover the basics of property managers and what they basically do, discuss some of the unique considerations for management here in Dubai, and what you might need to consider when choosing a property manager for your property. To help me with these subjects, I've got the help of our House experts, Louisa Bridge, Head of Property Management here at House, and Yewande Adibashin,
yeah,
Senior Portfolio Manager. Okay, so Louisa, you've been in the market for a very impressive 18 years here in Dubai and in the UK. Tell us a bit about yourself and what it's like to be a property manager, and probably after 18 years, the secret to your success.
I'm just good at what I do.
That's what we're going to delve into.
Exactly. So 5 years here in Dubai, most of that at House.
Nice.
So the secret to success, empathy,
Okay.
for both landlord and tenant, efficiency, and most of all, being proactive in helping both sides. Knowing the laws is massively important as to knowing what you can and cannot do.
Okay. Go back. So you've been 5 years, so that's put in 13 years, I'm assuming, in the UK.
Yeah.
Big differences between property management in the UK and property management in Dubai?
Yeah, lot of difference.
What's the main differences?
In Dubai, you're more proactive in helping the landlord in inspections, banking of checks, dealing with maintenance, going to court for the landlord,
Okay.
being at the evictions if a tenant hasn't paid rent. Whereas in the UK, that's mostly landlords will go and do that. You find here that more people give POA to you to be able to act on their behalf. It's not so much like that in the UK.
Okay, yeah, we'll delve into that kind of access and POA and what you can and can't do. I'm going to switch over to Yewande. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into the field.
Okay, yeah, I've been here in Dubai for 10 years now. I went to school here, and then I got into property management 5 years ago. I started doing property management because I feel like I like to make people's lives easy, and I like to deliver on promises that we make to, obviously, our clients. I'm well versed with like all the laws in Dubai, which makes it easy for me to know what I'm talking about and what's not right and what's right in Dubai, which is basically what you need to do property management. And that's why I love it so much.
Okay, no, that's good. Louisa, a property manager in a nutshell.
Basically, we're the second landlord. We do everything that a normal landlord would do. If they're too busy, if they're overseas. So we find their tenants, we screen their tenants. We do move-in inspection, move out, bi-yearlies, deal with all the maintenance. And if there's bounce checks, we can take POA, do the 30-day notices, deal with the court up into eviction,
Okay.
day of eviction.
Does every landlord need a property manager?
I would recommend it.
Of course, I think it seems to be like one of those things about a maintenance company. You don't need the maintenance company till you have a maintenance issue.
Yeah.
Do you find that landlords, until they get the issue, until they get the difficult tenant, do you find that they try it themselves and say, because what they would be paying? Would they be paying 10% of their annual rent approximately? 15%?
Between 5 and 8%
Okay.
of the annual rent. But yeah, you're completely right. It's not until landlords come across the problem. That
I got this
headache.
guy. Last year I did like just a snagging for him, and I was telling him, look, take property management. You're paying like 3,500 for snagging, and then you just have to pay like 6% for, it comes to just maybe 2,000, 3,000 more than what you're paying right now. And he was like, no, I can do it myself, just do the inspection, you know. And then this year, obviously, he forgot to increase the rent. The rents have gone up. He forgot to do it 90 days before, and the tenant is like, no, I'm not dealing with this. Tenant doesn't want to pay for maintenance. He's got the wrong addendum, like doesn't really stand for him in the his contract. So now he's run back and he's like, oh, please, I do need property management. And now he's had to pay double. You could have paid like, because Because if you paid last year, obviously you would have done the snagging, the handover, and then added property management under the same fee. But now you're paying like that amount last year and then 6% this year, and it's like,
yeah.
You know.
If you'd have done it on time, then literally
time,
the increase in rent would have covered the property management, and it'd have been better off.
I feel like the thing is like, it's like with first-time landlords, they always want to try it out, but the ones who've had like properties for like a long time know that it's not an easy job to do the managing of the property,
especially if they're busy.
Exactly,
they've got their own lives to lead each day. Do they want to get phone calls of a weekend or of an evening at 10 o'clock at night if there's a leak or an AC issue? Whereas we pick it up. It comes through, especially with the happy tenant system that we use. We get an email, a notification. Also, Leah, our maintenance lady, she picks it up. She organises the contractors, and we're on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of difficult for landlords, obviously, like with maintenance as well. We get 3 contractors. We're able to like organize everything. It's if you had just like one maintenance company, just ask them to go to the apartment to check what's wrong. You don't like know if that's actually what's wrong. You kind of need like more than one company or at least 3 different quotes just to be sure that that's the problem and like to compare.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
But so with us, we do send 3-4 contractors to check everything out. But if you don't have a property manager, you don't really have the time to organize all these things. But they don't really get that. If you just have like a maintenance company on the side to whenever it's time, okay, just go to the apartment. Let's say they fix something now and 2 months down the line it breaks down. That's because you only got one maintenance company. They could have got the problem wrong in the first place and fixed something that was only going to last for a short time because that's not the actual problem. You get, so you always need to like compare quotes and get different companies to know what it is.
And also have reputable maintenance contractors, you know. So rather than paying for a cheap contractor that will go there and budget, fix it right the first time. So you don't then in 2, 3, 4 months down the line, it could cost you double of what it would have cost you if you'd have fixed it right the first time.
Yeah, no. I just want to rewind on that. You mentioned about people being too busy or landlords being too busy. If I was a landlord and I've only got one property, is it that much time for me to manage my one property? I get it if I've got 5 or 10 properties, but if I'm not in a hugely paid salaried role and I want to, you know, I've got this property for a return on investment and I want it to be earning me 7 or 8%, but if I pay the property manager, it's going to go down to 6 or 7 or 1% down.
The thing is, with some landlords, they get really lucky. Like if you have one property, you can be extremely lucky. Your tenant doesn't bother you the whole year. Yeah. But you could get like one of my tenants I'm dealing with right now, the guy who's in the UK and has a property here in Dubai. He has just one property. He's first time buying, and his tenant is an absolute nightmare. Do you understand? So he got property management last year, thankfully. So we're sorting everything out for him. But if he was like, yeah, I have just one property, I'll do it by myself. I'm in the UK. He won't be able to sort things out now.
Yeah, of course.
Because the way it's gone, we've obviously been dealing with the tenant from the beginning, so we know the whole story. Yeah, so we're able to help him more. But like I said, yeah, it just depends on maybe your luck. You could get a really good tenant, you could get a really bad tenant.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, is this the one that you sent me to the other day, Tuesday?
Exactly,
So I went there just to see if I could speak to the tenant because they'd bounced a check. So
bounced 3 checks.
3 checks. So the 30-day notice is on the door. I took a photo of it and managed to speak to the neighbour. Very weirdly, they're still going in and out the house, cleaning it, but not living there.
But they're not living there. So what, they're using it as storage or something?
Yeah, won't respond. So we've served the 30-day notice. So now on Monday, we're ready now to go to court and open a court case.
So you see, with cases like that, he has just one property, okay, but he doesn't know what's going on. Like, he doesn't know the Dubai laws. He doesn't know what to do. We're going to have to tell him, okay, yeah, she's bounced 1 check, send a 30-day notice, then we can obviously open a case for you. He has one property, yes, he has time, but there's things that you don't know that you need someone to help you with, which is what we do.
Did he have the property management at the start, or do you get them start, get 3 months down the line, the first check bounces or there's an issue, and they're like, okay, can you now take over?
Yeah, we get a lot.
So you get,
or they start getting a few maintenance issues coming in, and the tenant's phoning them all the time.
Yeah.
They're busy with work, so it's like,
they're like, yeah,
can you deal with it? So
yeah,
we
exactly.
just, like I said, we're basically the second landlord, so that we're the first point of contact for a tenant.
Okay, so interestingly, when we look at the markets and what I understand with an up and down market, if the market is booming and landlords know that they've got a lot of tenants, do they actually want a property manager to make their life easier? Because they don't necessarily want to make their tenants' life easier. Whereas in a downwards market, when there's lots of availability and tenants can pick and choose, the landlord probably wants a property manager to look after their tenant, to look after their interests, because they don't want to lose that tenant. We are now in a market which we all know is heated. There's more tenants than there are properties.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. What are we seeing? Our landlords, we're talking about tenants maybe being the difficult ones, but landlords, I hear, aren't always the nice ones either, right?
Obviously, landlords want as much return on investment as they possibly can. And because of the rental calculator not being updated for a couple of years now, I think it is, they're doing, a lot of landlords are now doing the rent valuation.
Okay. Just go into that, Louisa, for people that don't know.
Okay, the rent evaluation, it costs 2,020 dirhams. So the rent calculator may say there's no increase in rent, or it might say that there's a minimal increase in rent. Or your property, if it's recently, relatively new, it won't even be on the rent calculator.
Okay. And it hasn't been updated for 2 years?
Yes.
So we're going back to prices in 2021?
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
So with the rent valuation, it's now it used to take about 3 or 4 days, but now because there's so many landlords doing this now, it's now taking up to 3 weeks.
How do you do it?
It's all done through the REST app,
okay,
which we do a lot of these rent valuations now for our landlords. So we log into their REST app basically, and we do it all for them.
If you're a landlord and you haven't got a property manager, as we know from a client that came to us, you and I, the other day, he didn't know how to push all these buttons and figure it out and what to upload and what not to upload. So it's obviously key because you guys do it day in, day out. You know what you're doing. So so you can go to the rental valuation, you can pay the 2,200, I think you mentioned. 2020. Something I assume is going to come back saying more up to date.
Yeah. So what they then do, that goes before a committee, and they base the rental valuation on the surrounding properties and what their current market rent is, what they're rented at, and then that's what they will base the certificate on. According to that, you can then obtain a 20% uplift in rent.
How much of your time at the moment, Yewande, is spent on landlords trying to increase rent?
2 hours every morning.
Really?
Yeah, so when I get in and I sort out like checks for banking and stuff, it's just back and forth with landlords and tenants trying to increase rent. Emails, rental evaluations, we still use the RERA calculator obviously because some go sometimes up to 10k, but it's mostly like the valuation things being done now. But yeah, it takes a lot of time.
Tenants live in the community. They've been in that property for a year before the landlord could potentially increase it. They do look online, properties in the headline. Do they not get, or do they, I get they don't want a massive increase, but they speak to their friends in the community, their colleagues.
Exactly.
Do they not feel that?
So that's my thing. I always feel like if you like the place so much, you want to stay in there, obviously just try to negotiate, even if you know that, yes, there's nothing on the RERA calculator. So they come back to you saying, oh, you can't increase more than this because it says there's only a 2,000 increase on the RERA calculator. But come on, you've seen what the market is like. You know that if you leave this place, you can't find something else like this. So just try to be on good terms with the landlord, obviously, just so, you know, he can keep you there a bit longer, you know. But yeah, they don't get that. They just, because Dubai obviously is very flexible with tenants as well. You can't just kick them out of the property, obviously. So some of them just want to stick to it's 2,000 increase and that's what it's going to be. Okay.
So regulation, we're talking about these rules and regulations. Is property management regulated?
No, not at all.
Okay. So if I wanted to start it, granted, maybe I'm not best example, but someone who, the barista in Haus and Haus wants to become a property manager tomorrow, can he do it?
Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't sound very good. So what sets us apart from our competition? There's lots of property management agents. We don't have to be regulated. Are landlords interviewing you before they pay your fee?
Well, they should, really. do their due diligence and check out the company, reviews. And I would say meet face to face or by Zoom with your property manager and ask as many questions as you can and find out just how knowledgeable that they are. That's really important.
The landlords do this actually, like whenever they reach out, like, hey, I want property management, but I'm looking at a few companies right now. Can we set up a call, whatever. And then they come back to you saying, okay, I've looked at your company, you guys are good, I would like to go with you guys. But I feel like a lot of landlords do that anyways. Like they don't just say, okay, it's you I want. They do search in the market a bit and see what kind of property managers are there. They interview you, they ask for a face-to-face meeting. Yeah, so when it comes to property management not being regulated, obviously anyone can just walk up to you and say, I can manage your property, pay me this and I'll do this for 1 year for you. But you need to do your due diligence. You 100% need to do it just so...
if they offer you a really low fee, you know, the chances are that they're not going to cover all the services that we cover.
Yeah.
So
what? Give me an example.
Well, we do move-in inspections, move-out inspections. We do bi-yearly inspections. They might not do that. They might just do the handover of the key, bank the checks, and then key collection. Yeah. We make sure that all our tenancies are renewed more than 90 days. We set them at 120 so that we're on it. And also, if a landlord wants to do a rent evaluation now, we've got that time.
Yeah, I've had a lot of landlords come back to me saying, oh, you guys are too expensive. This guy said he's going to do it for me for 2%, 1%. And I'm just like, what exactly do they do for you? And they're like, they're going to rent it out and they're going to give me my checks. I'm like, but that's not property management. You can get an agent to do that for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Or if there's any maintenance issues or if there's a flood in the middle of the night, who are they going to call?
Exactly.
They won't
your
answer.
check bounces, the person you've paid 1%, he's not going to chase after the tenant for you or go to the RDC for you. So they don't get what property management is sometimes. Yeah, but...
What did you mention RDC? What does that mean?
Rental Dispute Centre.
How often are you there?
Daily at the moment.
Is this just because the market's so heated, or is this normal for property management?
It's normal for property management.
I mean, it does tend to go in fits and starts, doesn't it? You know, you could have a really smooth run for a little while, and then all of a sudden there'll be 10 people that just don't pay the rent and bounce checks.
Exactly.
So in which case you're backwards and forwards to the RDC every day.
So they know you well in there?
Yes. And we're on first name terms with a few of them.
But I do get exactly what you're saying. You can find someone a lot cheaper.
Exactly.
But were they a barista a week ago? Do they know the laws inside out? Do they have your interests at heart to actually get your money on time? Are they vetting your tenants to try and understand that you've got a good tenant going in? And are they going to answer the phone when there are problems? I had a friend call me on the way to work on Monday morning. And his message was something like, I'm sorry to reach out. I know we haven't spoken in ages and I hate doing this, but can you help me? I can't move into my property because the previous tenant hasn't cancelled their Ajari. So I said to him, well, you need to speak to your agent. He said, they don't answer the phone, Luke. They've taken the money and I can't speak to them. So now I've got us trying to help him to do something. But these are often what's happening here at the moment. Quickly with the laws, these change quite often. How do you keep up to date with what is going? Is it because you're just in the field and you hear what's going on, or it's because your best friends are down at the RDC?
I feel like you have a lot of experiences as well. Like you want to do something and you get there and they're like, oh, that's changed. Yeah. So that just because you do it so often, like you always get what's going on every other week. If something's changed and you try to do something, just because you're doing things every other day, you hear what's going on. You get somewhere and they're like, oh, no, that's changed. And you're like, okay, for next time, I know this now. Yeah. But just because you're doing the same thing over and over again, you get to know about it every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time in the RDC. We know that the market's going up. You've talked about landlords trying to increase their rents. One thing we haven't touched on is necessarily or gone into detail is the eviction side of things. How much of your time is spent on these evictions?
Oh my God.
And are people trying to...
Don't get me started.
At least you can laugh about it. But on a serious note, these evictions are happening, and if you put yourself in the tenant's shoes, leaving your home or being evicted or having something chucked on your door, it's happening a lot.
Yeah, a lot of landlords are getting frustrated because they're not able to achieve the market rent or even close to it. So they're deciding to sell.
Okay, so they're deciding to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, they decide to sell. Do they really want to sell?
No.
So what do? They don't sell, but they're telling their tenant they're going to sell.
Yes.
So the tenant moves out.
Yes.
The landlord just says they're going to sell. They get a new tenant
Well, they
in.
might try to sell it.
For how
and
long?
They can't.
A day? An hour?
A month?
2
months.
Okay.
A month. And then they re-rent it.
Back at the market rent.
Back at the market rent.
Are there cases going on in court regarding this?
There are tenants that are taking some landlords to court.
Yeah, some take it really personal.
It shouldn't be rented for 2 years, but we
Well,
have
that's what
had
I'm
an
saying.
instance where the 12 months notice was served on a tenant that the landlord was selling it. Okay. It was sold to another guy before the 12 months notice was up.
Okay.
So the tenant said to the new owner, you need to serve me another 12 months notice. He opened a case and he won the case.
The tenant won the case?
No, the new owner.
So
he didn't have to serve a new 12 months notice.
Wow.
He opened a case and said, look, the 12 months notice was served.
Before I was the owner?
I was the owner by the previous owner.
I bought on the fact that the tenant was going to leave?
It would be vacated at the end of that 12 months notice.
Okay.
She hasn't moved out. And he won the case, and the judge ordered the tenant's eviction.
Yeah, the thing is that obviously there's laws covering everything, but when you actually open a case and there's a judge and he sees the circumstances around whatever's going on,
a decision will be made.
They're easy with people.
The cases you're seeing, obviously it's going to go off the, a case is won or lost, and a lot of the factor that goes into that, obviously with what's said and the hearings and blah, blah, but also is what's gone on in previous cases. Are you finding these are changing from day to day? So, you could have found that case could have been won by the tenant a couple of years ago or a couple of months ago.
Or even next week.
Yeah, okay.
It might be a different set of circumstances and the tenant wins. Or the landlord wins. It really depends on certain circumstances.
Okay. Are tenants being more difficult?
Yes. In the RERA calculator says like no increase, but clearly there's a big difference between what they're paying and the current market rates. They're refusing to negotiate, hence why there's a lot of these rent valuations being done and the 12 months notice
being sent.
because landlords are just want to sell.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's like, obviously you said they speak to friends in the community, they know the rates. It's like, you want to stay there, so why don't you just try to negotiate with your landlord? If the rents are 260,000, I literally have one, the rents are up literally 280,000. And they're paying like 180, and because the RERA calculator says the increase is 4,000 dirhams, so the landlord can't go more than 185 when the rent is 285 right now. The landlord obviously doesn't want to lose out on his investment, right? The rents are high, so surely if you're not agreeing to even negotiate, you just want to stick to 4,000 RERA calculator, the landlord is going to do a valuation, or he's going to send you the 12 months notice. Yeah, you don't expect us to be there.
Aren't they? They're open to negotiate with you. They're not asking you
for the actual
like the
market
100k
price.
increase. But like what they're asking is to like meet them halfway. Accept that the rents are a lot higher, and just pay that little bit more.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's going to cost you more to move, and you're never going to find the same property.
And the hassle.
Anywhere near, and the hassle, and you're going to have to downsize or move out the area. If it's somewhere where you like living, just try and negotiate.
And the thing is, like you said, tenants sometimes, you said, are they difficult? As per Dubai law, obviously, you know that if you try to negotiate with your landlord, and if RERA calculator says, it's 4,000, you can go directly to the land department and renew your tenancy contract at the same price as last year if you don't agree with your landlord. So it favors the tenants in that side as well. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. So,
are you finding that you're having more owners in Dubai that are living close by that's still using your services?
Yeah.
because of the problems that you are facing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
whereas previously they would have had maybe their driver to pick up the checks and
their
drop off.
secretary or
Now it's
something.
kind of, well, if there's a bounce check, I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
If a bounce check does happen, can you guarantee the rent?
We can't guarantee it. Obviously, once a bounce check happens, if the tenant's evicted, there'll be a judgment made against them. They normally get a flight ban. So, and at some point, if providing the tenants have not left the country without any intention of coming back, if they do try to leave the country, then they'll be stopped.
Okay.
And then we'll have to pay, plus the landlord's costs.
What makes a good tenant at the moment, Yewande? Is it if a tenant doesn't contact the property manager for a year? I'm a good tenant, so please don't start writing to me telling me you're kicking me out. Like if I'm a tenant today and I don't want to leave, what can I do with you as the experts to help me not have to leave?
I feel like it's not about just being nice. Obviously, there's a contract that like you're in with the landlord, right? I have some tenants, like the maintenance fee is 500. I had someone the other day, maintenance threshold is 500.
What does that mean?
And then if it's above 500, the landlord pays. If it's below 500, the tenant pays.
Okay.
So for minor works, tenant pays. Like say the light breaks or something, obviously you're not going to ask the landlord to pay for that if it's 30 dirhams. So I've had this tenant the other day who his maintenance was 420 dirhams. And he's just like, yeah, I don't want to pay. Can they check something else so you can add it up so it becomes 500? And I was like, come on. like, come on. Well, then you have some other tenants, obviously, who don't bother you the whole year. But when there's a rental increase, you still need to increase the rent. I'm not going to not send you an email just because you didn't bother me the whole year. You still need to get the rental increase email.
So from what you're saying, if I make 10 issues throughout the year or I don't, it gets to the end of the year, the landlord wants to increase, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're working on behalf of the landlord,
landlord.
he pays your fee. How do you handle the tenant?
Negotiation skills,
Yeah.
which Yewande's very good at.
But I suppose from knowing you, that is just because you call a spade,
Yeah.
and there's no point in playing one off against the other. Just that's as it is.
Yeah,
Is
I
that the
always-
negotiation skills that?
Yeah, to be honest, you just be straight with people. Look, the market rates are high. You don't expect the landlord not to increase this. Yes, you're an amazing. In fact, most times when I try to negotiate the rent for my landlords and it's not on the RERA calculator, like there's no increase, but the tenant's like, no increase. I don't want to increase anything. I'm like, look, just do it. Just because you like the house, you want to stay in there. The landlord wants to keep you, but rent needs to be increased.
If they do the rent evaluation, it's going to go up
Exactly.
probably more than what the rental calculator would say anyway, even if there was a
I feel like,
minimal amount.
like she said, empathy is a thing as well. I'm just not like rude to them and be like, pay or you get out, because it doesn't work that way anyways. You just have to find a way to like tell them, like, look, you like the place, you want to do this. Just try to work with the landlord somehow, And they always end up like, yeah, okay, we'll come up a bit. There's no increase on the RERA calculator, but I like this place, like you said. So I'll try to give a bit more. Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I want to touch on, a scenario that I heard about recently, was we're getting into the hotter months. The tenant's AC breaks at 1 o'clock in the morning. They've obviously can only do so much at 1 o'clock in the morning because you guys are probably not awake to deal with it. But the following day, very little is done, and the tenant feels that it's a tactic by either the managing agents or the landlord to create more problems for their tenants, so they willingly leave the property. So is this happening? Do you have a kind of act of care for the tenant in the hotter months to say, well, yes, landlord, you might want to make the tenant's life a bit more difficult. You might not want to give them AC, but they have a family, they have children. We need to get the AC. You've then got to go through the process of 1, 2, 3 quotes. Do the landlords ever tell you to drag it out? Let's make these tenants' lives more difficult?
No, I haven't heard of that.
No.
No, not really. The thing
Everybody
is,
understands how hot it is
Yeah,
in the summer,
yeah,
and that
exactly.
AC is a
I'm
necessity.
picking on
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
I suppose it could be other.
Yeah.
It could be
A
the
leak
bath is
or
not
no
working,
water,
and
yeah.
or something.
most landlords, even once you say it's AC, they're like, oh my God, it's Dubai, it's hot in the summer, please fix the AC ASAP. They don't even wait for 3 coats. Like, I even don't do 3. When it comes to like AC stuff
Something,
or something
really
leaking, I'm like,
emergency.
if it's really emergency, I'm like, look, this is what we can get. This is the contractor that's available right now. We can't wait like 3 days. place to like get codes. It's the AC. Please get it done. They're like, yeah, please get it done immediately because it's the AC.
Okay.
So emergency things like AC now.
Does the landlord need to go off the recommended supplier that you choose rather than asking the gardener to fix the AC?
No, I have a few landlords that have their guys. They're like, if I send my quotation, he could be like, yeah, can you contact this guy instead? And I contact them, and he just picks whatever. Like I said, 3 quotations, pick what you want.
Okay.
You can go with your guy, you can go with our guy, whatever you want.
But there could be a massive difference between the
they
issue being fixed today and then breaking tomorrow, or the issue being fixed today and actually working for the next 6 months.
Well, that's the thing. With us, obviously, we do have like warranty on our works. Yeah, so when you get this other guys, you just, maybe they charge you 600 and we're charging you 1,200. It breaks in 4 days, they ask you to pay something again. But if you use like our maintenance companies, we ask them to go back, check it, replace whatever it is. Mostly it's usually 1 year warranty. Yeah, so
I think probably what, from the outside looking in, if you're giving a lot of jobs to a certain company, they're going to do whatever they can to rectify and fix the issues, quick turnarounds, because they want to keep you on their side, right?
Exactly.
And they give us better rates as well, because we give them so much
business. Yeah, exactly. But if you send like just a random person, maybe when the thing's broken down in 2 days, they're not even going to answer your call, and then now you have to use another company. So yeah, there's perks to like using guys who we know that are like established and stuff like that.
It sounds like you're the referee and you're in a boxing match. I don't know if I'd spoken to you 2 years ago or 5 years ago whether you would have been the boxer and not the referee, but it sounds massively challenging. Thank you, Louisa and Yewande, and thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today. If there are any further questions regarding property management, just give us a shout and we'll try and get those answered for you. You can also get in touch with Louisa and Yewande through their details, which are on our website, houseandhouse.com. Don't forget to subscribe, whatever channel you're listening on, so where you are notified when we drop new episodes. And you can follow us at House and House on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. Thanks and cheerio, goodbye.